Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Driven by MADA podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Platt, and joining me today is a man I am sure you all know very well, Rob Smith, president of Fitzgerald Auto Malls. Rob, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Rob, let's talk about the empire that is Fitzgerald Auto Malls, and more importantly, the recent sale to the employees. So, for those of you who are not aware, Fitzgerald Auto Malls was recently 100% sold to its employees, as opposed to a conventional sale. Rob, walk me through that decision. Why did you guys decide to do it that way as opposed to finding a buyer outside of the dealership? And what does this mean for the future of employee-owned dealer groups?
That's a great segue into why we did what we did, and I'm glad to answer some of that. Jack has always been a little bit different, I think, than traditional dealers, just from the way that he does a posted price, and it's no surprise he went differently with his exit strategy, which is something on the mind of every dealer. A lot of we put a lot of effort into trying to change the estate tax. Some people might say we were tilting at windmills, but we put 10 years of effort, and we actually had a national coalition. We wanted to change the way it was collected. But after we ran into too many roadblocks, even after having a bill introduced, Jack decided the best exit strategy for him to perpetuate the brand is to do an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan. And it doesn't give him the highest value. He admittedly said that, but it allows his brand to continue with the leadership team that he really looks at as family over the years. But there are some significant tax benefits that he benefits from, and so does the company.
Yeah, so let's go a little bit further into detail with that. So you mentioned tax benefits. Why would another dealership group maybe consider doing this at the standpoint of maybe saving money on taxes or other underlying reasons that they wouldn't know about already?
Right. Well, Jack's been around for almost 60 years. His first store was a Dodge store in downtown Bethesda, and then eventually it just grew and grew and grew. And he admits he never thought that his empire, as you called it, would be as big as it is. And he had key man life insurance, and that wasn't going to save the family from having to deal with the eventual estate tax. So the way an ESOP works is the government does a lot to incentivize it. So, after you go through a period of evaluation, the government actually requires you to have a third party involved in it, a fiduciary, whose job it is to get the best deal he possibly can for the employees. And of course, Jack wants to get the most he possibly can for himself and for what he wants to, frankly, donate most of what he's earned over the years back to the community. So the third party trustee takes you through a process where there's evaluation done, business case is made that the company can make the payments. Certainly a friendly note holder. We put a significant down payment down, but he's also a very fair note holder in the way that we pay him back over a period of time. But the tax incentive comes in handy because, fortunately for him, the government came up with something called a 1042, not unlike a 1031 that a lot of auto dealers know about. When we buy real estate, we can trade real estate for another and save on taxes through the 1031, which is a part of the IRS code. A 1042 is the same type of replacement property called qualified replacement property that has to do with when you own stock in an American business. You can actually take the profits from having sold that business, the stock in that business, and put it into another stock. Now, that can be a little risky. You can't put it in a mutual fund, you can't go buy land, but you can put it into another American company. That's what the government wants, to continue to see American companies flourish. Well, there's a lot of very smart bankers out there on Wall Street that develop instruments to help you facilitate that qualified replacement property into something called a floating rate note. And what that does is it allows the seller to actually avoid all capital gains taxes, which is obviously significant because I said Jack started with just one store and it grew over time, and real estate values go up over time. So he's able to avoid the capital gains taxes and eventually pass on the savings to his heirs and to other charities that he's giving to. And then on the company side, we don't pay any income tax anymore. The government incentivizes this to the point where they call it workforce security. And those savings are put us at a competitive advantage because now I can take the money that I would have been paying to the IRS and I can actually use that for growth. I can use it to buy another dealership, or I can accelerate the payback of the note so that I can actually increase the value of the company, which increases the value of the shares for all of the employees.
That's very, very good information, Rob. I really appreciate it. And everyone who's watching, if you're in the position where you're trying to sell your dealership group, I know it's not a common decision that gets made, but it does happen. There's a lot of reasons to go with an ESOP, as you can clearly see. Now,
Right.
Rob, let's dive into more dealer culture to revolving around this ESOP. So, in order for employees to want to purchase a dealership, there has to be some strong sense of allegiance and brand
Yeah.
loyalty. Now, what does Fitzgerald do to create that type of allegiance to the point where they would actually buy the company?
Wow. Yeah. It is, as you can imagine, when we looked at the numbers, we were concerned, are we going to be able to make the payments? And fortunately, a lot of us grew up together. That's probably the biggest thing we had going for us is that I've been here for 35, almost 36 years. My COO's been here for 37. Even our lawyer, he's new to the family at 28 years. So we've got people that have been with each other for a long time. So we kind of go hand in glove and know how we like to do things and how we get along. But Jack has created this environment where we took a page out of the hotel chain, I guess, that's ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Jack's basic premise is every person needs to be treated with dignity and respect. And so it starts with treating each other that way, and then that naturally flows out to how we treat our customers. And that's why I think it was easy as a team to come together and realize if this is something that Jack wants to do and he has faith and believes in us that we can do it, we're going to take a hard look and look at the math and make sure that we can do it because we believe in the brand as well. And we want to see that continue.
Well, it seems like you guys made a great decision. It's worked out very well so far, and we're all so glad to see that. It's always interesting to see these unconventional sales going on and see it work out for the people.
Right.
Now, let's talk about the FitzWay, and that inevitably ties into this. You guys have created this philosophy and this environment that you deem the FitzWay. Uh, Explain to me what that means and how that ties into your day to day. But most importantly, how can other dealer groups develop their own FitzWay?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, the FitzWay is certainly a term of art that we kind of established as how we do business. We always say, who we are is Fitzgerald Auto Mall, but how we do it is the FitzWay. And I knew we got something when I had someone tell me who visited a competitor and they were complaining and said it wasn't the FitzWay over there. That's when I knew, wow, we really have something going for us. That's a brand identifier. We actually create a lot of processes that help facilitate that treatment of customers over time with that dignity and respect. Because we found out a long time ago that having great managers is important, but having great processes is even more important. Because it's only if you have a process that's repeatable that you can actually measure it and you can actually improve it. And we took an unconventional path towards that as well. And that was when we decided to go to something called ISO 9001, which is an international standard for quality that requires certain elements to be in your dealership management system. And in our case, we're a services business, so a manufacturing is usually associated with ISO 9001. We're a services business, but we have processes for everything from how we appraise a car, how we sell a car, how we service a car, so that when new employees come in, we can accelerate the learning curve and they know exactly what their job requires of them. When we buy a dealership, we know what processes need to get put in place. And when things fall through the cracks, because they do, it's how we can identify where we need to make improvements. And I think having so many different brands has led to our requirement for us to kind of have our own, because you can't have everybody be the best. I mean, Subaru used to have stellar performers. Chrysler had 5-star. You've got a circle of excellence with different brands. So how does every brand think that they're the best? Well, we need to take it up a level and establish processes that can cover all of those different standards and requirements that also obviously meet the customer's requirements most of all. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And part of that, I think we've talked offline a little bit before about the fact that we embrace the word audit, which is something totally antithesis of what a car dealer would ever do, because it usually means it's going to cost you a bunch of money. And that took a while for us to get over the hump in that culture. The reason why is to be a quality 9001 company, you have to do internal audits. Now, internal audits used to be only done in the accounting office, but now we're actually auditing the way that we deliver a car, the way that we service a car, down to how we make sure that we calibrate the tools that actually touch a customer's vehicle. So 36 pounds PSI is really 36 traceable to the National Institute for Standards and Technology. But every month processes are reported out on, not the same ones all the time, on how are they doing? Are they doing the things they say that we do? And then a third party comes in annually to make sure we're doing our annual audits. And do we have any corrective actions? Have we made any process improvements? Are we doing what we say we do? So there's accountability all the way throughout the system, which allows us to perpetuate and keep getting better every time.
So standardization on the group level, not just the brand level, is
Right,
key. And taking accountability, right?
right,
Using that terrifying word that is the audit
right.
and using it as a power for good. You're taking accountability for things that do slip between the cracks because, I mean, let's be honest, it happens.
Yeah,
And you're making changes on the group level, not just the brand level or the local level.
right.
Looking at things the big picture, that's what it sounds like. Am I right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we do, obviously we've had the benefit of training from lots of manufacturers and brands that we partner with. One of them, of course, being Toyota. And we learned that word Gemba, which means go where the work is. When there's a problem on the Toyota assembly line, it's everyone's responsibility to stop the line. And we have the same issue in our own practices that if there's a problem with CSI, customer satisfaction, we need to go dig in and find it. Okay, where's the breakdown? What's going on? And that's what internal audits help us uncover. Yes, managers are there day to day, but sometimes when you're in it every day, you can miss things. And you also might not have the benefit of the best practices that somebody's really, performing at a higher level. We can borrow those and put them in place that someone else hadn't thought of yet. And that's part of what helps facilitate that growth and that high performance that we're looking for out of each of our different dealerships.
Yeah, that's very intuitive. No more, not my job, not my problem. It's everybody's job.
Right,
And that kind of seems like that's the overall idea at Fitzgerald Auto Group is it's everybody's auto group. It's everybody's job. It's your job to make sure things don't fall between the cracks, but it's also your job to admit fault and find where the issues arise.
right.
I think that's a very good philosophy that other dealers and dealer groups can adopt even on the larger dealer group level down to just if you have one store, you can adopt these ideas. It all starts on the group level, not the brand level, and being accountable for your actions.
I think I think for us, the FitzWay does embrace our culture and that terminology. So people already kind of took ownership of it, but now because we're employee owned, they really have ownership of it. And so everything they do every day either impacts their own the stock of the company, which could help it go up or go down. It's an annual stock price. It's not quite like the stock market where we're at 4:30 trying to find out how we did. But no, but everything they do to save money matters. Everything they do to build value matters. And so that gives people a reason to want to do something every day and to go above and beyond and try to improve the workplace.
Rob, that's great information, and I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of the ESOP. I think it's worked out great for you guys, and I hope to see other dealership groups doing it in the future, making it about the people. Now, I think that's all we have time for today, Rob. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing this very, very valuable information with us. Hopefully, our dealers watching will be able to administrate this in their own stores and see more staff interaction and more staff stock in the future of their dealership. Rob, thank you. I'll see you
Absolutely.
soon. Have a great day.
You too.